In the heart of the sparkling city of Lorient, the tallest towers gleamed under the evening sun. Every year, the city's richest and most powerful people gathered for one event, the Roland Ball. It was not just a celebration, it was a show of wealth, power, and elegance. Glittering gowns, shining suits, and sparkling jewelry filled the grand hall. But this year, the ball had an unusual twist. Mr. Roland, the famous billionaire who owned half the city's businesses, announced a rule that shocked everyone. This year, he declared, his voice loud and proud, whoever dances the waltz with my son, Leo, shall have the honor of marrying him. I warn you, my son is not easily impressed. Only the best may try. His eyes swept the room, resting briefly on the servants who stood quietly in the corners. Then he smirked, his lips curling in amusement. Even the staff may attempt, but I wonder if any of them can match the grace required. Among the many who arrived in shimmering dresses and polished shoes, one girl quietly moved through the hall, unnoticed by most. She was Mina, a young maid who had worked in the Roland mansion for several years. Mina's skin was smooth and dark, her hair long and black, often tied simply behind her back. She carried trays of champagne and delicacies, moving with practiced ease among the guests. Mina's life had always been one of work. She swept floors, polished chandeliers, and tidied the vast mansion from morning until night. Few noticed her, and even fewer spoke to her. But Mina had a secret. She could dance. Not just casually, she was an exceptional dancer. When no one was watching, she would slip into the empty ballroom and practice for hours, watching old videos of waltzes and perfecting her steps. Every twirl, every glide, every turn had been learned in the quiet of the mansion. As Mina moved among the glittering crowd, she heard whispers. "Look at her," one woman said, pointing at Mina. "The maid thinks she can dance with the air." Another guest laughed softly, shaking her head. "She will fall before the first step ends." Mina ignored them. She had grown used to such remarks. The world often judged her for her work, for her clothes, for the color of her skin. But none of that mattered tonight. Tonight, she had a chance to show everyone her true talent. The orchestra began to play, and the golden lights reflected off the crystal chandeliers. The music filled the hall with a rhythm so elegant that it seemed to float through the air. One by one, women in luxurious gowns stepped forward to dance with Leo. They moved gracefully, some perfectly, some clumsily, but none seemed to truly capture his attention. Leo watched politely, smiling, but his eyes were calm and distant, like he had seen it all before. Mina felt her heart race. She had dreamed of this moment quietly for years, but now that it was real, doubt crept in. "Can I do this in front of so many people?" she thought. Her hands trembled slightly, but she steadied herself with a deep breath. "I have worked for this. I can do it." A friend from the staff, a young boy who polished shoes, nudged her gently. "Go on, Mina. This is your moment," he whispered. Mina nodded, feeling a warmth in her chest. She straightened her back and took a small step toward Leo. The room seemed to grow quiet, as if the music itself waited for her to begin. Whispers floated through the crowd. "Is she really going to try?" someone murmured. "The maid." Another voice added, "She's brave, or foolish." Mina's gaze met Leo's. His eyes were calm, with a spark of curiosity. He inclined his head slightly, signaling her to come forward. Mina swallowed her fear and extended her hand. The moment her fingers brushed his, a hush fell over the room. The ballroom seemed to hold its breath. Mr. Roland laughed loudly, his tone mocking. "If you dance this waltz, you marry my son. Let's see if the maid can even step properly." His laughter echoed through the hall, and the wealthy guests chuckled, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Mina smiled softly, not at him but at herself. Inside, she felt a surge of courage. This was not just a dance. It was proof of her worth, her skill, and her spirit. She was ready. The music rose, sweeping through the hall in flowing, golden notes. Mina and Leo began to move. Her steps were perfect, her spin smooth, her posture graceful. She led with confidence, her eyes never leaving Leo's. Gasps and murmurs filled the crowd. They had not expected such talent from a simple maid. Even Mr. Rowland paused, his mocking smile faltering as he watched Mina glide effortlessly across the floor. Each step, each twirl, seemed to tell a story of quiet determination and hidden talent. Mina was no longer just a maid, she was a vision of elegance and strength, capturing everyone's attention. As the waltz continued, Leo's calm expression softened. A small, impressed smile curved his lips. Mina noticed it, and it gave her a new wave of confidence. She felt the rhythm in her bones, the music guiding her, and she knew that tonight, she was showing the world who she truly was. By the final note, the entire ballroom was silent, stunned by what they had witnessed. Mina's last spin ended perfectly, and she stood, poised and proud, her chest lifted, her hand still in Leo's. For the first time, the wealthy guest saw her not as a maid, but as someone extraordinary. Mr. Rowland's laugh had vanished. Instead, he stood still, watching his son and the young maid. Mina's heart pounded, not with fear now, but with hope. She had dared to dance. And she had proven that courage and talent could not be hidden forever. The ballroom was silent for a long moment after Mina's final step. All eyes were fixed on her, the young maid who had just danced flawlessly with Leo. The music faded, leaving only the echoes of her courage lingering in the air. For the first time that evening, the guests could not hide their surprise. Whispers spread like wildfire. She was amazing," one guest murmured. "I didn't expect that from a maid." "She danced better than all the ladies here," another whispered, shaking their head in disbelief. Mina lowered her hand from Leo's, her chest still rising from the excitement. Her heart pounded, but this time it was not fear. It was pride. She had stepped into the world of gold and silk, and she had stood tall. Leo's calm expression had changed subtly. His eyes sparkled with admiration. "You have remarkable skill," he said softly, his voice steady but warm. "I did not expect it." Mina blinked, caught off guard by his words. Thank you, sir," she replied, keeping her voice polite but steady. She did not call him Leo in front of the crowd, it was still his formal world. Mr. Rowland, however, was not pleased. He cleared his throat loudly, drawing the attention of everyone. "Humph," he said, his tone sharp. "It seems the maid has impressed my son. But remember, talent alone does not earn respect in our world. You must prove more than skill. Can you withstand the trials that come next?" His words were pointed, a mix of warning and challenge. Mina met his gaze evenly. She did not flinch. "I am willing to try," she said, her voice calm. The crowd murmured. No one had ever heard a servant speak so confidently in the presence of Mr. Rowland. Some smiled at her bravery, others frowned, thinking she might be overstepping her place. Leo took a step closer. "Tonight is not just a dance, Mina," he said softly, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "It is about courage, grace, and confidence. You have shown all three." Mina felt a warmth spread through her chest. No one had ever spoken to her like this before. She nodded, a small, grateful smile on her face. "I will do my best," she whispered. The next challenge came quickly. Mr. Roland clapped his hands sharply. "Very well. If skill and courage impress, then let us see endurance. This waltz is long, and my son will not tire easily. You must keep pace, and you must dance flawlessly until the end. Are you ready?" Mina's stomach tightened, but she remembered all the hours she had spent practicing in secret. Every late night, every spin, every glide had prepared her for this moment. She nodded. "I am ready." The orchestra began again, this time playing a faster, more complex waltz. Mina stepped forward, her fingers brushing Leo's as they began to move. The room seemed to fade around her. It was no longer the glittering guests or the sparkling chandeliers that mattered, it was the dance, the rhythm, and the connection with Leo. Step after step, spin after spin, Mina moved with perfect balance. She led when necessary, followed when required, and matched every movement of Leo with precision. The guests watched in awe. Some had expected a stumble, a misstep, or a moment of hesitation. But Mina was flawless. Even Mr. Roland's sharp gaze softened slightly. He had underestimated her, as had the rest of the city. The maid had become the center of attention, and her talent could not be ignored. As the waltz continued, Mina noticed Leo's smile growing. He seemed genuinely impressed, his earlier politeness replaced with admiration. "You are remarkable," he whispered again, and this time Mina felt a spark of something she had never expected: connection. The music reached its final crescendo. Mina executed a perfect spin, ending with Leo's hand in hers and her posture poised and graceful. The ballroom erupted in applause. The wealthy guests, who had once whispered about her, now cheered for her skill and courage. Mina's cheeks flushed with pride, but her eyes quickly sought Leo's. He nodded, giving her a small bow of respect. "You have done well, Mina," he said quietly. "Very well indeed." Mr. Roland's expression, however, was unreadable. He walked toward them slowly, his tall frame casting a shadow over the floor. "I admit, I did not expect this," he said, his voice firm. "You have proven your talent tonight. But talent alone is not enough to enter our world. Are you prepared for what comes next?" Mina's eyes met his steadily. "I am," she said, her voice clear and confident. She had worked for this moment, dreamed for it, and now she would not turn back. Leo smiled gently. "You have already proven more than most can in a lifetime," he said. "I am honored to dance with you." Mina felt her heart swell. She had never imagined that a simple maid could stand in the center of the city's most important ballroom and be recognized not for her position, but for her talent and courage. She had faced ridicule, mockery, and doubt, yet she had overcome all of it. The orchestra played a soft, lingering note, and Mina took a graceful bow. The applause washed over her, warm and sincere. For the first time, she felt seen not as a servant, but as a person with skill, strength, and a spirit that could not be ignored. And in that moment, Mina realized something important: tonight was only the beginning. The dance had opened a door, and she was ready to walk through it, no matter what challenges awaited her. The crowd had returned to their tables, sipping champagne and whispering excitedly about Mina. Even the richest guests could not ignore the maid who had danced with the air and moved with such grace. Some exchanged looks of disbelief, others of admiration. Mina returned to her duties, but she moved differently now, her head held higher, her steps lighter. She had shown her skill, and no one could take that moment away. Mr. Rowland, however, remained quiet, seated in his grand chair at the end of the hall. His sharp eyes studied Mina with something unfamiliar. For years, he had believed that wealth, status, and beauty were the only things that mattered. Talent like hers, hidden and unexpected, made him uneasy. He had mocked her, yet now, there was a thought creeping into his mind, perhaps there was more to a person than money and title. Leo, standing near the orchestra, kept glancing at Mina. Each time she moved between the tables, her presence seemed to pull him in. He had met many women, all trained in elegance, all polished in perfect manners. But Mina was different. She moved naturally, confidently, and with a quiet strength. That strength had shown through every step of their dance, and now he found himself curious, more curious than he had ever been before. Later, as the evening went on, the orchestra played slower, more romantic melodies. The guests paired up again, dancing with polite smiles and carefully calculated steps. Some tried to mimic Mina's style, but none could match her grace. Her dance had set a new standard, one that made the ballroom feel different. People looked at her now with respect, not mockery. Mina moved to the side to refill the glasses, when she overheard two women talking near a chandelier. "Did you see her?" one whispered. "The maid, she actually danced better than half of the women here." "Incredible." The other nodded. "Yes, and she had courage too. Most of these ladies would have refused in front of everyone." Mina smiled quietly, feeling a warmth in her heart. She had worked hard, and it was being noticed not by her friends, not by strangers, but by those who had underestimated her. Leo approached her again. "Would you dance one more time with me?" he asked, his tone gentle but certain. Mina blinked, surprised. This was not the first dance challenge, but a personal invitation. I would be honored," she said softly, trying to steady her voice. The music changed, a slow waltz beginning to fill the hall. Mina stepped onto the floor with Leo, their hands touching lightly. As they moved together, her nerves settled. Each step was confident, each turn fluid. The crowd watched, captivated. Not because of wealth or status, but because of the story unfolding before their eyes, a story of courage, talent, and determination. Mr. Rowland leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. He had expected this dance to be another formality, a moment for the guests to admire his son and a willing partner. Instead, he saw Mina guiding Leo with skill, confidence, and charm. The crowd's eyes were on them, and even the orchestra seemed to play with more passion. Mr. Rowland's lips pressed into a thin line. For the first time, he felt respect, though he would not admit it aloud. As the music carried on, Mina began to feel something she had never felt before, recognition. Not just from Leo, not just from the guests, but from herself. She had believed she could dance, yes, but never had she imagined standing in such a grand hall, commanding attention with every step. She felt alive, more alive than ever before. When the song ended, the applause was thunderous. Some guests even rose from their seats, clapping for the maid who had danced as though she belonged in the halls of royalty. Leo smiled at her, a small but sincere smile, and bowed slightly. "You are remarkable, Mina," he said. "I am honored to have danced with you." Mina blushed and lowered her eyes. "Thank you, Leo," she whispered. She returned to her duties, but now, she moved as though the world had shifted beneath her feet. She had shown courage, and the world had noticed. As the night went on, Mr. Rowland finally stood and cleared his throat. The room quieted, all eyes turning toward him. "Tonight," he said slowly, "I have seen something I did not expect. Talent, and bravery, can appear in the most unexpected places." He paused, looking directly at Mina. "Perhaps I was too quick to judge." His voice held no mockery now, only a quiet acknowledgement. Mina felt her heart skip a beat. The man who had laughed at her mere moments ago now spoke with respect. She nodded politely, unsure of what to say, but proud of herself all the same. She had earned that acknowledgement. Leo returned to her side. "My father is not easy to impress," he said quietly, so that only she could hear. "But you have. That says a lot." Mina's eyes widened slightly. She had expected challenges, sneers, maybe even failure. But now, she felt something she had not felt before: hope. Maybe tonight was the first step toward a new life, one where courage and talent mattered more than background or title. The orchestra began to play a final piece for the evening, a lively waltz that sent smiles across the room. Mina and Leo moved together once more, this time with less pressure, more joy. Each turn and glide felt natural, easy, and full of life. Guests clapped along with the rhythm, watching the unlikely pair dance in perfect harmony. By the time the music ended, Mina's cheeks were flushed, her chest full, and her spirit soaring. She had danced not just to win or to prove herself, but to show the world who she truly was. And in that moment, she knew that nothing could take that away from her: not mockery, not wealth, not fear. She had danced. And she had won respect, courage, and maybe, even a place in Leo's heart. The days after the grand ball were filled with quiet tension in the Rowland mansion. Mina returned to her regular duties, but everything felt different now. The staff whispered in admiration, and some guests who visited the mansion found excuses to speak to her, curious about the maid who had danced so beautifully. Mina tried to remain humble, focusing on her work, yet she could not ignore the small spark of excitement that had begun in her heart. Leo, too, could not stop thinking about that night. He had danced with many women before, but none had moved him the way Mina had. Her grace, courage, and natural talent left an impression he could not forget. Unlike the polished ladies from the city's elite, Mina had something raw and real. He wanted to know her more: not just the maid who had danced, but the person behind the quiet smile. One afternoon, while Mina was dusting the grand staircase, Leo appeared at the doorway. "Mina," he called softly. "Do you have a moment?" She looked up, startled, and nodded. He stepped inside, his gaze steady. "I wanted to ask, would you like to teach me to dance?" His tone was gentle, almost shy. I want to learn the waltz the way you danced it." Mina blinked, surprised. "Me?" she asked. I can try, but I'm just a maid. I don't know if I can teach anyone properly." Leo smiled. "You taught yourself, didn't you? Surely you can teach me a few steps." His eyes held a quiet encouragement that made her chest warm. Slowly, she nodded. "All right," she said softly. They met in the empty ballroom that evening. The chandeliers glowed, casting light over the polished floor. Mina demonstrated a few steps, moving gracefully. Leo followed her carefully, a little awkward at first, but determined. Mina guided him patiently, correcting his stance and showing him how to glide across the floor. As the hours passed, they laughed at small mistakes and celebrated small victories. Each step brought them closer, and soon, their movements became smoother, almost as if they were in perfect harmony. As Mina helped Leo through a difficult turn, he looked at her with a seriousness that surprised her. "You are incredible," he said quietly. "I have never seen anyone with such skill and confidence. It inspires me." Mina's cheeks flushed. She had never expected praise like this, especially from someone like Leo. "Thank you," she whispered. I just love to dance." Their private lessons continued for days, growing into a secret friendship. Mina began to see a different side of Leo, not just the wealthy heir, but a kind, curious, and humble young man. And Leo saw Mina differently too, not just a maid, but a strong, talented, and brave girl. However, not everyone was pleased with this growing bond. Some women who had danced at the ball began to spread rumors among the city's elite. "A maid teaching the heir," one said. "How absurd." Another added, "What does she have that we don't?" Their whispers reached Mr. Rowland, who listened with a frown. For all his wealth and power, he had never expected the city's judgment to weigh so heavily on him. One evening, Mr. Rowland called Mina to his study. The room was large, filled with expensive furniture and art from across the world. He sat behind a massive desk and gestured for her to stand in front of him. Mina's heart raced. She had never been called to speak to the billionaire alone. "Mina," he began, his voice serious, "I have been thinking about the ball, and your performance." He paused, studying her carefully. "I admit, I did not expect much from a maid. I thought it would be amusing to watch you try. But you surprised me. You have skill, courage, and determination. Qualities I respect." Mina's eyes widened slightly. "Thank you, sir," she said softly. She was careful not to speak too much, afraid to overstep her place. Mr. Rowland continued, his tone softer now. "But I must warn you. The world is not always kind to those who rise above their station. Some will try to undermine you. Some will mock you. And others may try to take advantage of your talent." Mina nodded, listening carefully. "I understand, sir. I only wish to dance, and to do my best." He leaned back, his eyes thoughtful. "Do your best, yes. But remember, courage alone may not protect you from those who seek to challenge it." Mina's heart beat faster. The warning was clear, but it also carried respect. The billionaire had noticed her strength, and now he was testing her resilience. The next few days brought new challenges. Guests began requesting to see Mina dance, some hoping to humiliate her, others genuinely curious. Each time, she stepped forward with quiet confidence, letting her talent speak for itself. Some tried to intimidate her with harsh words, but Mina had learned to ignore them. She had danced for herself first, for her courage and her heart, and that strength carried her through every trial. Leo continued to meet her in secret for dance lessons, and their bond grew stronger. Each step, each turn, and each laugh shared in the empty ballroom deepened their connection. They were no longer just teacher and student, they were friends, equal in the shared joy of dance. One evening, as the sun set and painted the city in shades of gold, Mina paused after a particularly difficult spin. Leo looked at her, admiration shining in his eyes. "You are extraordinary, Mina," he said softly. I think everyone will see it soon. But even if they don't, I see it." Mina felt warmth spread through her chest. She had started this journey as a quiet maid, unnoticed and underestimated. But through courage, skill, and heart, she had begun to change the world around her, and in doing so, she had begun to change herself. The city of Lorien buzzed with whispers about Mina. The maid who had danced with Leo at the grand ball had become the topic of every conversation among the elite. Some admired her courage and skill, while others sneered quietly, unable to accept that someone from humble beginnings could shine so brightly. Mina, however, focused on her work and her private dance lessons with Leo. She knew the world could be cruel, but she had discovered something stronger: confidence in herself. One afternoon, as Mina arranged flowers in the grand hall, a sharp voice called out, "Mina! Come here." It was Mr. Roland. His tone was firm, leaving no room for hesitation. Mina set down the vase carefully and walked toward his study, her heart beating faster. She had faced his scrutiny before, but she never knew what he would ask next. "Mina," he began, once she entered, "I have been observing your progress. The city is watching you, and so am I. You have skill, courage, and a presence that cannot be ignored. But now I must see if you can face a greater challenge." Mina's stomach tightened. She had expected praise, but a challenge. What kind of challenge, sir?" she asked softly. Mr. Roland leaned forward, his fingers steepled. "The next Roland Ball will be grander than the last. This time, I am inviting dancers from across the city, some of whom are professionals. They will try to impress my son and the guests. If you wish to dance, you must compete against them. Only then will you truly prove yourself." Mina took a deep breath. The idea of competing against trained dancers was terrifying, yet exciting. I understand, sir," she said, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. "You will need to prepare," he continued. "And remember, not everyone will wish you success. Some may try to intimidate you. You must stay strong." Mina nodded. She understood. She had faced mockery before and had stood her ground. She could do it again. Over the next weeks, Mina practiced tirelessly. Every morning before the mansion awoke, she rehearsed in the empty ballroom, perfecting each step and turn. Leo continued his lessons with her, offering guidance and encouragement. Together, they worked tirelessly, laughing at mistakes and celebrating improvements. Their connection deepened, built on trust, respect, and shared joy in the dance. However, the gossip among the city's elite grew sharper. Some tried to discourage her, making snide remarks about her background. "She thinks she can compete with us," one woman said. "A maid, teaching the air, ridiculous." Mina heard these words but ignored them. She had learned that courage meant continuing despite fear and judgment. Finally, the night of the second Roland Ball arrived. The grand hall was even more magnificent than before, with golden lights reflecting off crystal chandeliers and velvet curtains framing the stage. The city's finest dancers filled the floor, each trying to outshine the others. Mina felt a flicker of nervousness but quickly pushed it aside. She had prepared for this. She was ready. Mr. Roland announced the beginning of the competition. "Tonight," he said, his voice echoing through the hall, "dancers from across the city will perform. Only the most skilled may dance with my son. Let us see who is worthy." One by one, the performers danced. Some were graceful, others precise, but all lacked the natural confidence and heart Mina had. When it was finally her turn, she stepped onto the floor, her heart steady and eyes focused. Whispers filled the room. "The maid, is she really going to dance?" Mina ignored them. She extended her hand to Leo, and he took it with a reassuring smile. The orchestra began to play a flowing waltz, and Mina moved with elegance and power. Each step, each glide, each turn was precise yet full of emotion. She did not dance to impress the crowd or defeat competitors, she danced to express herself, to show who she truly was. The audience watched in awe. Some leaned forward, captivated by her grace, while others exchanged shocked glances. Even the professional dancers who had performed before paused to watch her. She was not just skilled, she was extraordinary. Leo followed her lead, matching her steps, and together they moved as one. The ballroom seemed to fade around them. All that mattered was the music, the dance, and the connection they shared. Mr. Rowland observed quietly, his eyes narrowed but thoughtful. He had never expected this. His son and the maid were flawless together. As the final note played, Mina executed the last spin perfectly, stopping gracefully. The room erupted into applause, louder and more enthusiastic than ever before. Some guests cheered, others clapped respectfully, and even the skeptical elite were forced to acknowledge her talent. Mina's cheeks flushed, but she held her head high, proud of her performance. Mr. Rowland stood slowly, his expression unreadable for a moment, then he nodded once. "Well done," he said quietly, a rare smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "You have faced your challenge and proven yourself. I see now that true talent and courage cannot be hidden by status or title." Leo looked at her, his eyes shining. "You were incredible, Mina," he whispered. "I am so proud of you." Mina felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had faced fear, mockery, and doubt and emerged victorious. She had danced not just for the audience, but for herself, and for the courage she had found within. That night, as Mina returned to her room, she realized something important: her life had changed forever. The world would always have its challenges, but she had learned to face them with grace, confidence, and heart. And somewhere deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning of a journey that would shape her destiny. After the grand ball, Mina's life seemed to change overnight. The city's whispers no longer carried doubt, they carried admiration. Even the elite who had once mocked her now looked at her with cautious respect. But Mina did not let it affect her. She continued her work in the mansion, quietly cleaning, arranging flowers, and helping wherever needed. Her heart, however, carried a new kind of happiness, a mix of pride, excitement, and something she could not yet name. Leo, too, could not hide his feelings. He found excuses to spend time with her, whether through dance lessons or simple conversations in the mansion's gardens. Each time they met, he saw more than the maid who had danced. He saw Mina, the brave, talented, and kind girl who had faced a room full of judgment and won. One afternoon, as Mina polished the grand mirrors in the ballroom, Mr. Rowland entered. His expression was serious, but there was a glimmer of curiosity in his eyes. "Mina," he said, his deep voice filling the hall, "tonight, I wish to test not only your skill but your courage and heart. A situation will arise, and I want to see how you respond. Are you ready?" Mina nodded, her pulse quickening. She had faced challenges before, but the billionaire's words carried weight. "Yes, sir. I will do my best," she replied. That evening, the mansion hosted a private dinner with influential guests from across the city. The ballroom was filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and elegant conversation. Mina moved gracefully among the guests, serving food and drinks while keeping an attentive eye on the floor. Everything seemed normal until a commotion arose near the terrace. A young socialite, known for her arrogance, had arrived unexpectedly and demanded attention. She laughed loudly, mocking Mina quietly as she passed. Did the maid really think she could impress the heir? She whispered to a friend. What a joke. Mina's hands tightened around the tray, but she forced herself to remain calm. She had learned that anger or fear would only distract her. Instead, she focused on her work, quietly moving around the hall. Leo, noticing the tension, approached her. Mina, he said softly, ignore them. They do not understand courage, skill, or heart. You do. His words warmed her chest. She nodded slightly, grateful for his support. Then, Mr. Rowland's voice rang out, commanding attention. Everyone, tonight we will have a demonstration of skill and courage. My son will choose a partner for a final dance, but only someone who proves themselves in character, not just talent. The room grew silent. All eyes turned toward Mina. The young socialite stepped forward, laughing. This should be interesting, she sneered, confident in her status and beauty. She looked at Mina with thinly veiled contempt. Mina's heart raced, but she stepped forward anyway. She had faced mockery before and had never faltered. This time, it was not about the dance alone, it was about proving who she truly was. The orchestra began a slow, elegant waltz, and Mina moved to Leo's side. Their hands touched lightly, and the world seemed to narrow to the music and their steps. As they danced, the socialite tried to interrupt, attempting to step in and distract the pair. Guests gasped, unsure what would happen. But Mina remained calm, her focus unbroken. She guided Leo gracefully, turning and gliding with precision. Each movement reflected not only skill but also resilience and inner strength. The audience watched in awe. Mina's courage shone through every step. She had faced mockery, social pressure, and intimidation and still moved with confidence and grace. Even Mr. Rowland, known for his strict judgment, looked impressed. His eyes softened slightly, recognizing that Mina's strength came from her heart, not her title or wealth. When the music ended, Mina executed the final spin perfectly, stopping with poise and dignity. The room erupted into applause, louder and more sincere than ever before. The socialite's confident smile faltered, replaced by surprise and a hint of respect. Even the guests who had doubted her could not ignore the truth: Mina was extraordinary. Leo released her hand and smiled warmly. You were incredible, Mina, he whispered. Your courage, your heart, it is unmatched. Mina's cheeks flushed, a mixture of pride and relief washing over her. She had faced not only a test of skill but also a test of character and had emerged stronger. For the first time, she realized that talent alone was not enough. True courage came from remaining true to oneself despite fear, judgment, or opposition. Later, as the night ended, Mina returned to her room, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. She had not only impressed the guests and Leo but had also proven to herself that she could rise above any challenge. The applause, admiration, and respect she had earned were only the beginning. From that night onward, Mina knew her life was changing. She had faced fear, mockery, and challenge, and she had triumphed. She had discovered her own strength, courage, and heart, qualities no one could take away. And somewhere deep inside, she felt a new certainty: her journey was far from over, but she was ready for whatever came next. The final days before the next grand ball were filled with excitement and tension in the Rowland mansion. Mina moved through the halls with quiet determination. She had faced mockery, competition, and tests of character, and each time she had emerged stronger. Yet, deep inside, she could not ignore the flutter of nerves that came with knowing tonight might change everything. Leo, too, felt the weight of the evening. He had danced with many women, but none had left him so captivated as Mina. Their lessons, their conversations, and their shared laughter had built a connection that went far beyond the dance floor. Tonight, he would see if their bond could withstand the scrutiny of the city and his father. When the grand hall glittered with crystal chandeliers and the finest gowns, Mina entered quietly, her heart steady. She was no longer just a maid, she was a symbol of courage, talent, and dignity. Whispers followed her path, some admiring, some incredulous. She ignored them all, focusing on the rhythm in her heart and the music that awaited. Mr. Rowland stood at the end of the hall, his expression serious but attentive. "Tonight," he announced, "we celebrate talent, courage, and heart. Those who wish to dance with my son must not only show skill, but also prove their true character." His eyes rested briefly on Mina, then on the other guests. "Only those who inspire respect and admiration may join the final dance." One by one, the competitors performed. Some were skilled, others graceful, yet none carried the same authenticity that Mina possessed. When it was finally her turn, she stepped forward with quiet confidence. Leo extended his hand, and she took it, feeling the familiar warmth of trust and encouragement. The orchestra began a slow waltz, the music filling the hall with elegance and emotion. Mina led with grace, guiding Leo effortlessly through the steps. Each turn, glide, and pivot was perfect, but it was not perfection alone that captured attention, it was the heart behind each movement. She danced not to impress, not to compete, but to express herself. The guests watched in awe. Some whispered their admiration, others fell silent in respect. Even the professional dancers who had performed earlier paused, captivated by the natural elegance and strength of the young maid. Mr. Rowland observed quietly, his usual stern expression softened by genuine respect. Halfway through the dance, a deliberate attempt was made to distract Mina. One of the elite guests, jealous of her growing attention, stepped onto the floor, trying to break her focus. But Mina did not falter. She adjusted, continued with confidence, and incorporated the minor disruption seamlessly into the dance. Her courage and presence shone through, stronger than ever. Leo, sensing her focus and determination, moved with her, matching her steps perfectly. Together, they created a harmony that left the audience mesmerized. It was clear, this was not just a dance, it was a statement. A statement that talent and heart could not be defined by wealth, status, or mockery. As the final note of the waltz played, Mina executed the last spin flawlessly, her posture proud and her expression serene. The entire ballroom erupted into applause, cheers, and whistles of admiration. Guests stood, some smiling, others shaking their heads in disbelief. The socialite who had once mocked her could only watch, stunned by the undeniable truth of Mina's talent and courage. Mr. Rowland stood slowly, his eyes locking on Mina. For a moment, the entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Then he nodded, a rare, warm smile breaking across his face. "Mina," he said, his voice carrying through the room, "you have proven yourself not only in skill but in heart. You have faced challenge, mockery, and scrutiny, and yet, you remain true to yourself. That is rare, and it is worthy of the highest respect." Mina's chest swelled with pride. She had dreamed of dancing, of showing her skill, but she had never imagined such acknowledgement. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the depth of the moment. Leo, still holding her hand, leaned closer. "Mina," he whispered, "I have known from the moment we danced together that you are extraordinary. Not just in skill, but in heart. Will you continue this journey with me? Tears of joy filled Mina's eyes. She nodded, unable to find words at first. Finally, she whispered, "Yes, Leo. I will." The crowd cheered, sensing the connection between them, seeing the sincerity and courage that had guided her every step. Mr. Roland approached, extending a hand to Mina. "You have earned your place," he said. "Not by wealth, not by status, but by courage, talent, and heart. I am proud to welcome you not only as a dancer, but as someone who inspires respect in all who meet her." Mina took his hand, bowing slightly in gratitude. She had faced ridicule, judgment, and challenge, yet here she stood, celebrated and respected. It was more than she had ever dreamed. As the music shifted to a soft, romantic melody, Leo led Mina to the center of the ballroom once more. This time, they danced not as student and teacher, or as maid and heir, but as equals, partners bound by mutual admiration, courage, and respect. Each movement was effortless, fluid, and full of life. The ballroom faded away, leaving only the two of them moving together in perfect harmony. That night, Mina realized something profound. Life was no longer defined by her role as a maid, by others' judgments, or by the limits society had placed on her. She had discovered courage, skill, and heart within herself, and those qualities had transformed her world. She had danced not just to impress, but to reveal the strength within, and in doing so, she had changed her destiny forever. The applause, smiles, and respect of the city's elite were simply the beginning. Mina had learned the most important lesson: true worth was measured not by wealth, status, or appearance, but by courage, heart, and determination. And in Leo's eyes, she saw what she had always hoped for: recognition, admiration, and the promise of a future filled with shared dreams and respect. As the night ended, Mina stepped away from the ballroom, her hand held by Leo, her heart full of joy and certainty. She had faced every challenge and emerged stronger. She had danced for her dreams, her courage, and her heart, and in the end, she had won not only respect, but love, friendship, and a place in a world that had once overlooked her. And so, Mina's journey, which had begun quietly in the shadows of a grand mansion, reached a new beginning, one where courage, talent, and heart would always shine, no matter the obstacles.